All right, welcome to another episode of This Week in Overwatch, where we will go over everything that's been going on in the wider ecosystem of Overwatch, whether that's social media, news outlets, or places like Twitter and Reddit and the forums. So, we're going to start with good news. Very good news, unequivocal good news. Bobby Kotick is going to be leaving as of the tomorrow, which is Friday, recording this video. By the time you watch this video, he may already be gone. This will represent a huge W for the wider Activision developers, obviously for Overwatch in particular, but also for the world. This is a victory of man type situation. You know, everyone's going to be better off with Bobby Kotick off somewhere in, admittedly, some private island where he's got shit tons of money, but at least he's not bothering our lives anymore. If you're wondering why we hate Bobby Kotick, here's a good example. Bobby Kotick was paid $155 million in compensation packages. This is just what Bobby Kotick's raking in. And to put that into context, we have a tweet that illustrates that well. Average salary for a game dev is $38,600. The salaries for 1,000 game devs, which is pretty much, I think, the entire Overwatch team, $38 million. The salary for Bobby Kotick, $155 million. The reason this is important to point out is that this is a time in the gaming industry where developer layoffs are rampant. So for those you don't know, this has been, I think, one of the highest, if not the highest year of developer layoffs in the gaming industry in record. So it has been a bad year for game development, even though it has not been a bad year for games at all. You know, in this year alone, we've seen vastly successful games. You know, we saw like Starfield drop, Baldur's Gate 3. I think The Legend of Zelda dropped this year as well. So we saw amazing games come through this year, and yet, even as games have continued to get more money and certain studios that have had, good performing games have laid off a bunch of people on top of that. I know, for example, Wizards of the Coast, who do Magic the Gathering, laid off a bunch of people in a year where their profits were up and they released some of their most popular sets this year. So that gives you an illustration of what's going on in the gaming industry and where the problem really lies. And it's most certainly with people like Bobby Kotick. It is unjustifiable in any way, shape, or form for him to be pulling in this kind of money while the developers are scraping to make ends meet. Also, tells you where your monetization money is going, because I see so many people who are mad all the time about greedy devs. Well, this is what the devs are getting, and the entire Overwatch team is not getting as much money as Bobby Kotick is getting. So whatever money that's being pumped in right now is being pumped into Bobby Kotick. Will this get better with Microsoft or not? We don't know. So for those, again, who are wondering why Bobby Kotick is leaving, is because the Microsoft merger, I mean, it was completed a while back, but the date for his departure once Microsoft takes over is the 29th of December. So again, this could be in the past, present, or future, depending on when you're watching this video. So good riddance to fucking Bobby Kotick, and I will later do a video on my thoughts and predictions for 2024 Overwatch, and that will definitely have a heavy section on what it means for Microsoft to be taking over, and thank God Bobby Kotick's gone. But for now, good news, this fucker is out of here. Next up, we have a controversy as old as Overwatch itself. For those who may not remember, the newbies, the zoomers, the people who just have bad memories, when Overwatch launched, there was huge controversy around Tracer's ass because it was considered too provocative. The pants were too tight, the butt was too prominent, and I even believe there was some tight outlines that had made people uncomfortable with just how sexualized the character Tracer was. This is before she became canonically gay as well, so this is when straight men were very happy with Tracer to be this sexualized, and the devs toned it back. Now we have a new accusation from just some random ass incel dude who says they're so terrified of people sexualizing Tracer that they completely removed her ass. Like, it just doesn't exist here. The anatomy makes zero sense. So I'll scroll down a bit and you guys will see what the controversy is about. Unfortunately, as I regret to inform this person, and as everyone in the comments and the replies informed this person, this is exactly how it has been since that initial controversy when they fixed it. This is how it's always been, and normal human beings have asses like these. As much as I regret to inform this guy, he seems to be a commission artist of some sort, as you can see by the commissions closed. Perhaps in his art, perhaps in the hentai and the 3D porn that which he consumes, the bottoms be buxom and the boobies be boobying. But in real life, it ain't always like that. And if you're wondering why I'm going so hard on this guy, actually I need to pull up this tweet. But if you're wondering what I mean about this guy being an incel type, the next reply to his post, so he continues the thread. He says, I was not expecting this to become my most viral post. Lol. I guess having functioning eyes is the key to viral success. Which is to imply that before this he did not have functioning eyes, and that's why he didn't have viral success. And that's why, despite all of this, he still sits on 3,000 followers and follows 4,000 people in a desperate attempt to get them to notice him. Because as this profile picture shows us, his art is shit. But he continues. The far left feminists, prudes, even tried to community note, but they were BTFO'd by community noters who also have functioning eyes. Apparently now, guys, pointing out to this guy that this was always what Trace's ass was like, is the work of far left feminist prudes. Where has the world gone when facts and logic get in the way of my horny gamer ass thirst? Why can't I just have prominent butts in my video games anymore, you far less feminist prudes? The reason I bring this up is because this post has 31,000 likes and 7 million views. So if, in case you were accusing me of perhaps being like SVB, you're pushing an agenda that doesn't exist, or you're bringing something up that isn't relevant. This has done the rounds. Probably this is more people have seen it than have played Overwatch in the time since it's been posted. But also views are a little bit of an odd metric in Twitter because it counts it twice. But as you can see, a lot of people very mad about Trace's ass. Next up, we go back to the normal life of Twitter drama started by Metro Overwatch. So last week, on This Week in Overwatch, we talked about the Metro clip where he's dueling with Kiriko and he complains about how unfair it is. Well, he's been at it for the entire week and causing all sorts of riots, fights, fracas, if you will, across Overwatch Twitter, with pretty much every major creator engaging with him in some way, shape, or form. First, by posting a bunch of clips and highlighting other people's clips where he maintains that support OP, Kiriko OP, healing is too much. There was a notable clip where a Tracer was trying to kill a Bastion and couldn't, and then a Genji was blading, and you know how weak Genji Blade is these days, so nothing died in either of those clips. So Metro was fueling the fire, and now he continues because he's been on a bit of a Mauga grind. And he says, I would tag every pro/contenders player that flamed me and called me shit, but Twitter wouldn't let me tag that many people. What now? For those wondering, the screenshot details Metro having hit rank 10 in the top 500 ladder. So this is, I don't know why 6 is on here 3 times. Now for clarity, this is a copy pasta. So this is a reference to Mace to the Face, who's a Brig OTP, who made this exact post, but with their own screenshot of them, I think, being rank 1 support on like day 1 of the ladder dropping, claiming, I wish I could tell every pro player to shut the fuck up. Well, Metro tried a bit of the same. I don't know how much he's memeing. I don't know how much he's being serious, but I want to illustrate what the hell happened. He started some fights. King Hydron, pro player, replies, no, trust me, buddy, you're still shit, and gets 5,000 likes on his post, shitting on Metro. Many other people chimed in, mostly to comment that maybe this indicates a flaw in the rank system, because Metro doesn't play tank. This is like the first time he has seriously played tank in a while, and his MMR has kind of taken him to top 10. On top of that, a lot of people have said that this highlights the brokenness of Mauga, that Metro, having primarily played Mauga in this run to top 10, kind of abusing the broken hero to get high up on the rank system. And people talking about, well, this also exposes the fallacy of the leaderboard early on. The leaderboard releasing on its, when it launches, is quite vastly inflated, and people can get such peaks because most other people have not hit the 50 requirement for games played, etc., etc. I mean, props to Metro. From my POV, props to Metro for hitting top 10. Whatever people may say, it's still an achievement. It still demonstrates talent on his part. And I don't know if he's genuinely maintaining that this means he's a top 10 tank player. In some of the other replies, he seemed to take himself a little bit seriously and seemed to genuinely believe in it. But also, the copy pasta suggests that maybe he's just joking and trying to engagement bait. Either way, well done. But I do think more than, while it illustrates Metro's talent, what it also illustrates is the flaws in the ranking system and is the OP-ness of Mauga. Moving on from Twitter, Overwatch and other Blizzard games will soon be back, if they're not already back, I'm not 100% sure, in China. So we're going to be back in the Chinese market. For those who don't know, we weren't playable in China for a while. For any publisher that's not Chinese to have a game of theirs be playable in China, they have to partner up with a local company, I don't know what the exact terminology for it is, but local company. Tencent and NetEase are basically the two giants who control most of this. But Overwatch had a partnership with one of these two. I can't remember which one. And every year they have to renew their agreement, and they couldn't come to an agreement one of the years, like last year. So China ceased to have Overwatch playable and other Blizzard games for a year. Now, start of next year, they've made the agreement, so it'll be back soon. After that, though, China seeks to curtail spending in online video games, sending Tencent and NetEase shares tumbling by $80 billion. So this is basically news that China has announced rules to limit the encouragement of spending in online video games. And when you look at the details of what they're saying, basically games in China can no longer offer daily rewards for logging in, stopping games from encouraging players day after day to maintain a streak. And there's also limits to how much currency you can add to in-game digital wallets, and from banning probability-based odds to minors. And this is on top of previous restrictions that they've already put in the past. So some people obviously are viewing this as really bad and draconian. The changes, which are still pending and may yet change subject to review in the new year, come following a period of growth for gaming in China. Game approvals have now resumed, and one new change likely to be seen as positive by developers is a requirement for these to be processed within 60 days. Again, I think a lot of people view this as bad. I actually think, far be it for me to praise the government of China, but I actually think more governments should do stuff like the first two parts about restricting login rewards, currency spending, and also banning probability-based odds to minors. Those are all actually really reasonable measures. The stuff about there's like more stuff that they did before about restricting how much like people under 18 can play, as we can see here. Previous gaming restrictions limit gaming for under 18s to just an hour per day, and only on Fridays, weekends, and public holidays. That is very much draconian. Protecting people from being scammed is definitely a thing that a government should do. FOMO features, like having daily reward logins and encouraging you to drop like $100 or something in one go for ridiculously expensive items. Stopping these kind of things seems like a massive dub to me. Because again, like if you're restricting how much people can add to their in-game wallet, then no longer can they purchase, let's say, $100 Valorant skin, right? And so the games have to accordingly monetize and not charge such ridiculous amounts for their cosmetics or whatever it is that they're charging for. I think gaming is coming to a point of reckoning where this kind of stuff is going out of control. And as we were discussing earlier with the whole Bobby Kotick situation, we're getting to this point in gaming where there's just buttloads of money being extracted from gaming, and yet none of it is helping the industry in general, right? So developers are getting laid off and consumers are getting ripped off, right? Consumers are paying more and more and more money. And the only people benefiting are the Bobby Koticks of the world, are the big fucking 1% CEOs who are pocketing all the extra money, right? So nobody's winning except these guys. And the only people who can stop that is a government, right? There's no way as consumers we can kind of avoid the money going into one of these giant companies. Because again, Microsoft has now bought Activision Blizzard and owns so much of the market. And Sony owns a large chunk of the market. And Nintendo owns a large chunk of the market. So there's no way to stop these guys. Although Nintendo, to be fair, to my knowledge, are not so bad with the gacha stuff. And they're bad in other ways. But, you know, these gacha games, live service, max monetization, it can't be stopped by the consumer just because it's not really a realistic expectation to ask millions of people, including many teenagers, to just stop playing these games and find some underfunded indie game and that's all we'll ever play, and we won't ever play these big titles from games and franchises that are well known and loved. I actually think these changes in particular are a dub. Back to whining about Overwatch. I was looking through the forums to see what this is the top post in the forums this week. And I promise that I did not try and pick two posts back to back that are referencing me and my content. In whatever way I can phrase it that doesn't sound like a humble brag. For that reason, the top posts in the forums are talking about the Group Up podcast. And that's just how it is. I think a lot of people watch the podcast and they talk about things we talked about. This one's actually from the previous episode, not the most recent episode. This is from the interview I did with Jared Noose about what, the plans for Overwatch are and how they view 2023. So the title of the post is Executive Producer Surprised by Winter Event Anger. And it links to a PC Gamer article that they then quote that talks about my podcast. So it says, in a recent interview about the controversy on the Group Up podcast hosted by Twitch channel SVB. I'm a human being. Twitch, hosted by Twitch channel SVB. I'm not the Silicon Valley Bank. Could have just said hosted by content creator SVB. News remarks. I'll be totally honest. The response has kind of surprised me. It's totally understandable when you break it down like that. What we wanted was for players to have more choice. The goal was, what if the event had similar structure to what we had today, but you could pick the thing you got at the end? Noose admits that the team was misguided in its framing. So again, as someone who was there for this conversation, to just reiterate, I asked Jared about the controversy that a lot of people are upset with the Winter Fair Battle Pass because A, it costs more money. It's another pay, microtransaction. And you can only really get a couple of the skins and not all the cosmetics after you pay for the $5 Battle Pass or the 500 credit Battle Pass. So I said to him, people are upset. What do you think about this? And he was like, look, we kind of viewed it as you're getting 4 skins for $5. And in the past, we've done these events, these arcade events, where you need like 9 wins. For those who maybe weren't around in Overwatch 1, they used to have these mini events that would come along. Very mini event, right? It would just be like Ana's Bastet Challenge. And you could get the Ana Bastet skin if you won 9 games that week. And every 3 wins, you'd get like a minor cosmetics. You'd get like a spray or an icon or something. And then on the 9th win, you'd get the skin that the whole mini event was about. So basically what Jared's saying is, what if we could take that in the dev team's POV? They were like, what if we could take that and make the player have a choice? Because you kind of have to just take the skin they give you, right? You get given the skin in the mini event. Their ideology for this one was, let's give the players a choice of 4 or 5 or something, and they can pick the skin they like. But as I pointed out to him himself, you've now presented players with like 4, 5, 6 skins. They're already paying for a product, and then you're saying you can't have everything. And they have to grind for getting the thing. So while on par, I think getting 4 legendary skins for $5 is amazing. The mechanisms with which it happens are poorly constructed. And clearly Jared kind of realized that they didn't really think about this. So it was a great idea from the devs, but misrepresented, misthought of, and mismarketed. So ends up being something that caused controversy when it really shouldn't. So Rays of Glory, the forum poster with 9,660 posts, says, I'd imagine the reason why players are upset is because not only do you not get everything out of the Winter Pass if you pay for it, but the fact that the last thing this game needs is more monetization. If they truly wanted to give us a surprise, I feel like a free pass that anyone can grind without any implementation of purchasing a boost would fare a lot better, especially considering the skins you earn are mostly reskins anyways. We must apply context here. I have just spoken at length about how we do need to limit the greed and the rampant consumer exploitation that exists in modern multiplayer gaming in particular. So I'm not going to dispute that at all. And yet, cannot help but feel like this guy is a massive bitch. I have not seen the 9,659 posts that came before this, nor do I want to troll through them. But imagine if I did, I would see many, many posts complaining about how Overwatch 1 was a game that I paid for and now it's a free game and they took shit away from me. I've read enough forum posts to understand the subtext. Because when someone says, the last thing this game needs is more monetization. I mean, it's not really more monetization. It's just, in truth, it's just part of the monetization that already exists. Like, it's just a way to get skins that pushed around differently. If they wanted to give us a surprise, I feel like the Battle Pass that anyone can grind without any implementation of purchasing a boost would fare a lot better. Again, this is a very interesting framing of what the thing is, because actually what they're asking for does exist. You can indeed grind the Winter Pass for free and get a skin by the end of it. So in terms of generosity, quote unquote, is it the most generous thing in the world? No. But they are giving you a legendary skin for free if you grind enough. So what this guy's asking for is indeed what the developers have given him. What really bothers him, as bothers so many people of this ilk, and why I look dimly upon this guy, what bothers him is this purchasing a boost. I mean, it's not really even purchasing a boost. What it is if you go for the freemium, you get 1 skin max. If you go for the premium, you get about 4, right? And yes, you earn more quickly, so in that sense, it's a boost. But that's not really what it's about. It's not about we're all gonna earn the same amount of tickets and this X pass is just gonna get you faster. What it's about is here's a free skin because, here's the free pass. And then as the product, buy the thing and get 4 skins potentially. While I understand this guy's complaints, and I spelt them out to Jared himself, I can't help a feeling he's being a little bit whiny bitch, and he probably wants Overwatch 1 back. And as we go through the comments, that sentiment will come up. So Shirley, who I think often, I can't remember if, I remember this name, and I can't remember if they often speak sense, or I've spoken sense for once and are often speaking nonsense. They say, I really don't understand the whole thing about more monetization. Guys, it's 4 skins and a bunch of other junk for $5. This is an absolute fucking bargain compared to how they usually do things. Everyone in the forums is oddly Mormon and doesn't like swearing. I don't know if that's a flag up thing or if they just are indeed Mormon. Imagine if it was last year or even just the last event. Every single skin would have been in the shop for $20 each, and the only skin we get for free is one we couldn't even choose. Now we get to choose which skin we want for free, and if you want, up to 4 skins for $5. A fraction of the price it would have cost during any other time in Overwatch 2's lifespan. If the argument is that people want everything for free, then yeah, I can see them being upset. But argue for everything to be free in a free-to-play game is bonkers levels of expectation. We're just going to read a couple more posts. Astrid Ray says, this is definitely what it is. People in response to, if the argument is that people want everything for free, then yeah, I can see them being upset. This person replies and says, people don't like hearing it, but a lot of it is that Overwatch 1 spoiled people so much that now things are how they are. It causes all this drama. Like, I don't even want some of the skins, but I'm happy to get a chance to nab Widowmaker Kerrigan. Always wanted that one. So the OP replies, gets back in there and says, granted, it is, 4 skins for $5, but also, consider, it's $5 for the privilege to grind for a skin that was released a long time ago and mostly reskins. Also, the wording of it's $5 for 4 legendary skins, which feels squarely in the spirit of holidays to me, feels a bit tone deaf when in the past, the spirit of the holidays would be giving us a free, I think they typed golden loot box and someone pointed out that that's not what you got, and instead they say a free 5-pack of loot boxes. It just leaves a bad taste considering what this game once was. So, as I said, I already called out that if I go back to this guy's posts, we're going to see some complaining about how Overwatch 1 was great and how I wish Overwatch 1 was back and my Overwatch 1 was robbed from me. I have been in the 3 scrolls of the mouse, we've shown that this is exactly what's happened. So you can always tell, we've been through this discussion a million times, and some people will never be happy about the change of the model. All they always neglect to mention is that they paid $60 or whatever for Overwatch 1. So while yes, Overwatch 1 was generous, was unbelievably generous after initially scamming the crap out of people. This is also what they forget. It was generous by the end where you were getting lots of loot boxes and all the skins you want for free. But that's also the reason the game went broke. That's also the reason the game stopped development, because it wasn't making enough money anymore. And so the higher-ups and Bobby Kotick, it all back. Today's episode bringing everything back in loop with each other. Setting the context. Who says I don't do enough research? Bobby Kotick was not going to be happy with the kind of money Overwatch was making, so he needed a sequel. He needed Overwatch 2 that could be sold. Maybe Microsoft will do things differently, but this is the ecosystem we live in. The developers do have to try and make some money. Again, we can definitely have a discussion about how much money is too much money and what is exploitative. But I do not think personally that the Winter Fair is exploitative. And it isn't $5 for the privilege to grind for a skin that was released a long time ago and mostly reskins. It's you can pay $5 if you want these skins. If you truly think this was a skin that released long ago and some reskins, my guy, you don't have to buy it. I do not understand this. I do not understand the people who are simultaneously upset that they can't get a skin while also shitting on the skins that they say they want and saying they basically don't want them. So he's like, man, I wish I could get all the skins. And it was someone's like, you can get quite a lot. He's like, yeah, well, they're shit skins anyways, and I barely want them. Make up your mind. Are they good skins that you really want to have and are sad the devs aren't giving you, or are they shit skins that you barely want to pay for? And secondly, yes, while they did give you free loot boxes in the past, you paid for the game. Was the Overwatch 1 monetization better? By the end, yes. But again, people forget that at launch, Overwatch 1 was hyper scummy, and that loot boxes were not at all good, and were actually a super scummy way of monetizing the skins because you had to RNG your way to get the skins. You couldn't buy the skins. You had to just RNG roll loot boxes until you got the one you were hoping for. And it was only later on, with later iterations of Overwatch 1, that they made it so that duplicates got you credits, and you had a less probability of getting duplicates. And basically they changed the odds and stuff a lot. And they made it so you could then buy skins for credits that, like, you had. The changes that happened were over time and were absolutely not how Overwatch 1 launched. And Overwatch 1 in many ways set the precedent for scumminess. So I encourage people to keep calling out what they think is unfair practices in Overwatch 2. And that will hopefully lead us to a fairer model that more people are happy with. But I don't think the $5 for 4 skin pass is actually bad. So like I said, I did not manipulate this to have the forum post talk about the Group Up podcast. But here's another one. People say that support is broken or support role is broken, and it's capitalized in a way to suggest that it's like a dumb person talking. Can this stop already, please? There are only 2 supports in the game that are kind of problematic that need nerfs. Bap and Ana, and that's it. There is no support role is broken or free win. Most of the supports except Bap and Ana are balanced or in need of some smaller buffs. Says Neo Raider. I was watching that SVB Malga podcast today. My brain still hurts. And that Boger guy, I don't know why Boger is in quotation marks, as if his name isn't really Boger. Like, no, that he definitely is Boger. You can maybe call into question his opinions and his credibility, but his name is definitely Boger. So putting quotation marks on that Boger guy is, I don't understand this part. That Boger guy that gets invited to Blizzard events and Blizzard offices. When did Boger get invited into Blizzard offices? Was literally insulting all the support players in some nasty ways, while Manchild Samido was laughing like crazy on his insults. Boger went that far to say how Illari out of all the heroes is instant values, and that he hopes that supports like Bap, Kiriko, and Illari will be nerfed, while he loves anti-nade and doesn't understand the issue people have with it, and that Ana is fun. Ana is fun and fine, but Illari is instant value. And needs more nerfs? Hello? Where is Illari this season? Leaderboard is out, so where is she? Anyone can check both EU and NA. Anyone can check Illari's pick rates too. This guy really showing off his own credibility as he complains about pick rates and leaderboards representing the strength of a hero. Let's just hope Blizzard never listens to these people when it comes to balance, or anything at all actually. Yeah, we should listen to Neo Raider instead, who thinks that most of the supports need buffs, and that Ana and Bap are the only strong characters, and that despite every credible person in the Overwatch community who flexes all 3 roles, and even people who only play support, admitting that support is the strongest role in the game, this guy maintains that this Boger guy and the man-child Samido are pushing their propaganda. Reading between the lines again, I am the forum post whisperer. Reading between the lines, this guy doesn't play Ana or Bap, probably. Hates Ana and anti-nade because everyone wants them to play Ana, or Anas are getting more value than this guy. Probably plays like Mercy or Illari or Moira or Lifeweaver. Some of the supports that basically aren't the classic DPS fraggers that everyone hates. I mean, Illari aside. I only pick out Illari because surprisingly they really love Illari, so maybe they flex on the Illari. Like, usually there's like 2 divides between the support players, which is like, there's the shooties, the support players, and there's the support players who play the Lifeweaver Malgas and the Briggs, or Lifeweaver Moiras, Briggs, and Mercies. And they dislike being lumped in with the DPSers, which I appreciate. That is fair. But also, a lot of these guys are kind of like busted. Like Lifeweaver kind of busted. Interesting that this is Neo Raider's take. Was one of the most popular posts this week on the forum post, so clearly a lot of people agree with them. And then finally, we're going to end with something relatively wholesome. I choose to interpret it as wholesome. This is a post by a user who says, is this considered cheating? And I know they're not joking because they put it in the spoiler of news and discussion. And I will let you watch what they do and then decide if you think it's cheating, chat. So they're playing D.Va. They're on console. They've been demeched. It's quick play. They run back to spawn.
Ow.
They change to Doomfist. They change back to D.Va and get their mech.
Oh yeah, we were switching this way, huh?
They're asking, is this considered cheating? Now, I think how funny you find this will depend on how long you've been playing Overwatch. For those who've been playing Overwatch since launch, or even from any parts of Overwatch 1, this is the funniest shit I've seen in a while, because one of the first things people figured out was that when D.Va gets demeched, you can run back and spawn, change to another hero and then change back, and you get D.Va mech back. And this is one of the most common things you'd see at the pro level. So this is basically old knowledge at this point, like so old that it's not even worth mentioning, right? It's one of those things that's like everyone in the old community understands so intuitively that this is not even worth mentioning that this is a thing you do. But I think it's sweet and wholesome that clearly this person is relatively new. And if they genuinely stumbled upon this mechanic themselves and didn't like find this anywhere else, fair play to you. Like, this person discovered it in the way that someone else discovered it at the launch of Overwatch 1, right? Like, someone thought about it, it's like, I could go back and switch, can I? What would happen if I switch back to D.Va? Will I come back and mech? Kudos to this guy for discovering it themselves. To note, I will be taking a break from streaming in the first 2 weeks of January, so I don't know yet whether there will continue to be a This Week in Overwatch or not during those 2 weeks. I may stream for like 1 day a week, do the podcast, do This Week in Overwatch or something, just so we have more stuff to put on the YouTube channel, where I imagine you're watching this right now. But either way, like and subscribe, check out all the other stuff on the YouTube channel.